Thank you for listening to the Flying High Club podcast in association with the World Aviation Festival 2024 in Amsterdam. We've been delighted to be able to bring you this, and it wouldn't have been possible without our sponsors, Flyware. Flyware are experts in aviation and travel space, providing tech outsourcing services focused on increasing revenue and making your operations more efficient. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to bring you what we are bringing you today. And more importantly, what we need you to do is, if you want to find out more about Flyware, please check the caption below for more details. Thank you for subscribing and keep following us. Keep flying high. Welcome everyone to the Flying High Club podcast. We're at the World Aviation Festival 2024 in Amsterdam. And I'm delighted to have my next guest as part of this series. She is going to talk about all things happening in this industry, all exciting things that we've been talking about when we're even here at the festival in terms of technology, investment in the travel and industry space. And we're also going to ask her about her own career and her journey. So as we always say on this podcast, it's about getting you the insights from the people that are making this industry move. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Amy Burr from JetBlue Ventures. Thank you very much for coming along. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. And like I said, an open format as we discussed. We really want to talk to you about your career and what you've been doing today. And also, you know, you're here. I think people will be very interested in you being here in the role that you're doing. We're going to delve into that.
Yeah.
And we'd really like to understand, you know, what you're looking for when you're here as well.
Okay, great.
So to start with, you know, why are conferences and festivals like the World Aviation Festival so important to our industry?
Well, I mean, I especially think this is a great conference because I think a lot of people attend World Aviation that you don't get to talk to on an everyday basis, you know, all over the world, really wide array of different types of companies, different airlines, a lot of more senior folks from the airlines come, which I think is really important. Not that other conferences aren't great, but this particular one has always caught our eye as being, you know, a place where you can go and meet with the people you want to meet with. From my side, we are obviously here looking for interesting startups and the next big thing in technology for the airline industry or the travel industry in general. And so there's just so many people come to this conference that I think it's just super valuable to be here.
Perfect. So touching on looking at the next big thing, you know, what you've been walking around naturally and been involved in panels over the last couple of days. What are the up and coming products or innovations that are exciting you most that you're seeing?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I can talk about some of the things we're looking for.
Yeah.
And you know, right now, this is an interesting time for the travel industry, but also for investing in in travel tech. And most of what we're really targeting at this stage is a lot of like operational efficiency or back office efficiency, especially using data and AI. Of course, everybody has to talk about AI, but we're not, you know, necessarily. We've been invested in AI since 2016. We're looking for how do you use all the data we have about our operation to make a better operation, to make it more efficient, to make it more, you know, to safer and actually accomplish the things you're trying to accomplish through your data using these AI tools that are now just so much better than they used to be, right? So, you know, we're walking around and talking to some folks. A lot of our portfolio companies are here. Asaya, you know, Volantio, Flyer, InFly. You know, we have a bunch of folks here that we've invested in, and it's great to see them. And then we're just looking to see what else might be out there. Fantastic.
And look, I come from an operations background, so actually it's music to my ears talking about this efficiency, because one of the challenges is well, we've always done it this way.
I know.
And actually maybe people are scared of that data and what it's going to be telling them. Where actually what we're talking about here is we are flying planes every day to the same destinations, generally at the same time, generally with the same activities. How can we be more effective and efficient with that?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly the type of stuff we're looking for.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you're investing in next and what you see next, especially in that space. So look, before we delve into your career, you're currently president at JetBlue Ventures.
Yes.
So just for anyone that doesn't know, what's the difference between JetBlue and JetBlue Ventures?
So JetBlue Ventures is actually a wholly owned subsidiary of JetBlue Airways. We are a corporate venture capital firm. Our mandate is to invest in and partner with startups and travel tech. So we're here to think about kind of forward-looking innovation. How do we actually transform the industry through some of this new emerging tech and these great new startups that have come around? And that's really that's our focus entirely. Like, we don't have operational roles with the actual airline, which allows us to focus all of our time in this space. And we invest in, like I said, travel tech startups. We've invested in 55 over the course of time. We were founded in 2016. We have an office out in San Francisco. So we are run a little separately from Airways, but obviously this is our biggest, our owner and biggest partner. And we do a couple different things. In addition to investing, we also do a lot of innovation work. Yeah. So because we are in this field and because we spend a lot of time thinking about what emerging tech is going to be interesting and what it's going to do to transform the industry, we try to spend a lot of time bringing innovation thinking into the airline as well as other partners in the industry. So a lot of the work we do is just innovation work and just trying to help people think differently about the way they do their jobs every day. So we're different in that we're obviously the venture firm, and a lot of folks here love to asked to talk to me and my team, thinking that we're Airways, and we're not. I can't help them, solve a problem at Airways, but I can help them if they're a startup and they're looking to figure out whether or not they're a fit. So that's the type of work we do.
Perfect. So you talk about, some of it's about education, as you say, in terms of the innovation piece. How open are your airline counterparts to that? Because again, 19 years I'd say about me in the industry. One thing we do is we go slow, not quick enough sometimes. Yeah. And some of that is maybe born from the individuals, maybe. I mean, I know, what has been the journey you felt that, especially, I'm just thinking, if it was me, I was like, oh, here come the guys that are going to tell us how it all works, and how do you overcome that, and you and your team?
Yeah, that's actually really a tricky part of a job like ours. Yeah. Because we get it. I mean, I have worked in the airline industry, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but for 24 years. Yeah. So I have been part of operating airlines for most of those 24 years, and I understand how it is, you're focused on your job and making sure your job is, your part of the business is running well and meeting your goals and KPIs and all of those things. And here you're trying to, somebody comes and says, hey, try something new, and that's tricky. Yeah. JetBlue has been great. Obviously, making the commitment to have a corporate venture capital firm for 8.5 years, has been a big thing for them. And we've trialed over 50 startups over the course of that 8.5 years, which is really what we talk about. I don't go in there and say, you need a new business partner. I go in there and I say, you need to just try this thing to see if it solves that problem. Yes. And, that can be a short proof of concept that, if it's successful, then great, you have built your business case. Yes. And now you could potentially have a new business partner. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, that's great too, because you've learned something and you've tried something different, and that's not the one that's going to solve your problem. So we really try to just help them think about it in small chunks. Yeah. Just try little things. Try this over here, try that over there. Small, 3 weeks, very clear KPIs for success. And just try to tackle it in that way. Yeah. Otherwise, it's overwhelming. You come in and they're, oh my gosh, I have to try this new business partner. They're a startup, they're young, they're a small company. How's that going to work? What's going to happen? We start small. Try a proof of concept. If it works, then we'll help you figure out how to actually move to a business partnership relationship. But JetBlue's been really great about trialing a bunch of things, but it's tough. This is a tough part of our industry, and all of my colleagues who are here, who are from, corporate venture firms, I would say the same, which is that it's a lot of just, working with people about what they're looking for, and you have to gain the credibility as a team that you're going to bring them the things that are interesting. One of the things we don't do is bring every single thing we see, because that just kills your credibility. We're going to bring the things we think are really important to you. So when we come to you, know that we have really spent a lot of time thinking whether this is the one thing. Yeah. So I don't know, we chip away at it in those ways, and they've been great. And we have a lot of partners in the industry who are super excited about innovation. Aviation, and we work with them as well. And so, we're chipping away at it.
Yeah,
that's what I like to think. We're chipping away at changing the industry.
Well, I think, look, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think one of the themes that we've seen on the series here is that, adopting that change, and it's the mindset around change. I think, you've hit the nail on the head there, actually, that credibility you bring with your own experience. Yeah. And also another one I pull out from there is the learning to fail fast. Let's have that quick conversation. Let's time frame it, and if we see things that are successful, let's keep going. If not, let's move on, and everyone learns from that. And I think that's really important, right? Because we are a traditional industry, and we were built from the backgrounds of safety and security, so everything has to work, be done properly, be tested. And now you're telling me, try these guys out, and it might not work, and you're like, whoa. It's a real change in mindset that you're trying to push, which is quite inspiring as well.
Well, everybody likes to think that they're a nimble, fast-paced organization, even in the industry. But really, this is putting your money where your mouth is, and really learning to live and breathe the fail fast mentality, and just to try things in a small, contained, easy to quantify, but also safe and secure way, right?
Yeah. So look, you talk about corporate venture capital. Yeah. Why are so many airlines now looking at this as a model?
Well, I mean, this is an industry, as we've been talking about here in the last couple minutes, that is old school, has old technology, has done things the way they've done things for years and years and years, and I think that people realize that for us to continue to to just be a better industry and provide a better product for our customers. Customers expect a lot more of us today.
Yes.
Like, the digital world is so advanced for a customer on their day-to-day lives, but yet travel's still behind in that space. That they demand better. And so I think airlines are starting to realize that you can't just keep doing it the way you've always done it. You have to actually embrace new technology. You have to figure out how to actually, become a more digitally savvy company. You have to use AI, and you have to use, whatever, whatever the latest tech is, or else you're just going to fall behind as an industry in comparison to all the other industries out there, right? And so, customers, the moment the iPhone came about in, what was that, 2007, I mean, things have rapidly changed,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, you can do anything that you want from your hand, like from the little thing in your hand, and people expect just us to be more forward in our technology, and we're not. And so I think everybody in the industry has recognized that one of the ways we have to make that change is to actually embrace new incumbent, new players in the industry that are going to challenge the incumbents to just be better. We just can't keep using the same technology over and over and expect something to be different.
Yeah, that makes sense, absolutely. Definition of mentality, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, so just keep building upon JetBlue Ventures. What can you tell us about some of the more exciting investments that you're really excited about at the moment in your portfolio?
Oh my gosh, we have so many companies in our portfolio now, and it's, people ask me all the time, what's my favorite ones? I lose track of them all. They're all so great. We did a lot of investing in climate tech, kind of through in 2021 through to kind of end of 2023. So we have several SAF companies. We've done electric hybrid aircraft. We've done, measuring and monitoring carbon emissions types of companies, carbon offsetting type of companies. We've done investments in all of those types of companies, and that's been really great. And we feel like we've really blanketed across, the categories of sustainability. So that's really great. We're not necessarily, looking to fill more of those because we've just done so many great investments there. So now we really are focused on a little bit more operational efficiency, and part of it is around meeting JetBlue where they are in their life cycle. And right now, operational efficiency and reliability and things like that is really important.
Absolutely.
And so those are some of the things we're looking at right now. But we also have spent a lot of time on some of the back office and enterprise tech style companies that will really move the needle within the industry. So we've done a lot of cybersecurity and fraud and we just invested, I don't think I can tell you the name because I don't think it's public yet, but it's a spatial analytics company that allows us to create, it's the last step in creating a digital twin of the operation that will allow us to game out IROPS so that we can make better choices before we actually put them in place.
That's music to my ears. I've been talking about this for a while, because like you say, again, from my background, I've been at head of operations in the past as well, and you're so nervous not to break whatever's there already, right? And how do you play safely?
Yes, exactly.
And to be able to do that, I think gamification is definitely the way forward. I think that's not only because, like I said, it provides a safe environment, but asking someone who has nothing to do with what my experience is to see how they would turn an aircraft around or process people for an airport, it could look completely different to what I'm looking at, and if they can make it work in a safe environment, then why could we not go and test that and think? So that sounds truly exciting. So I hope at some point you might be able to share with us down the line when that's all signed and we can follow that as well, because that would be an incredible journey.
Yes, definitely. We're really excited about that. We partner very closely with the data team at JetBlue because they're just really trying to transform things. And I mean, out of all of the whole airline is really great and innovative, but the data team is really very forward-thinking, and so that's this is one of the companies that we've invested in to partner with the data team a little bit.
Okay, so if I am one of these startups, looking to break into innovation, or I'm there and I'm struggling, what is your advice? What are you looking for out of a startup when you're out here? And now, obviously there'll be different stages of that process, but we're just starting out and we're looking for to be able to provide to those customers. What do you want to see from startups?
Well, there's a couple things I like to tell startups or remind them. First of all, they need to have a really compelling use case that they're trying to solve, right? But also one that's unique. I mean, some certain types of companies are dime a dozen, and think I can customize your trip, sales, like those types of things, like they're dime a dozen. I want something a little bit unique. I want you to be thinking about it in a unique way, using knowledge of the industry. It's really helpful. A lot of startups are brilliant founders, but they've never actually worked in the industry, and it's a tricky industry to connect with.
Yes.
And so they need to be thoughtful about how they're going to actually propose that they're solving a problem. And it would be really great if they've actually spent some time with somebody who actually works at one of these companies to see if that's going to work. Now, we play that role a lot. That's part of the reason why people come to us for money, because once we do invest in a startup, we spend a lot of time with them helping them figure out how to connect into the industry. But it's not that easy. A lot of founders, a lot of entrepreneurs, they're travelers and they see a problem to be solved, which is amazing, but they don't actually know much about the industry that they're trying to connect into, and that's tricky. So, unique problem, unique way of solving it, something that's, going to catch my eye. I like to say, and it's probably true, but I've seen it all. I've seen surprise me. Like the spatial analytics company in that use case, that was a surprise for me. Like something new, something I can, really wrap my mind around. Like, this is exciting stuff, as opposed to one of 20 companies I've seen this year that are doing, custom trip planning,
No, it makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. No, I mean, I think that will be helpful to those that are listening, right? To be able to shape what they're doing, as opposed to just, let's get into the industry and let's try and solve. And as you say, we're all guilty of it where we're passengers. Even if we have been in the industry, I think we always think we could do it better.
Always do.
And there is always context, and it's hard to explain that to a customer.
Totally.
But actually, if you're in the industry trying to solve the problem, you need to understand that in terms of the user stories, for sure.
I mean, I get it. Like other, they feel like they can use this technology to solve a problem in another industry because it's so straightforward. But there's just so much at play when you're talking about travel, they've got to understand a little bit of that before they can come up with a solution that's really going to work.
Okay. And if I was to ask you about the kind of breakdown of your startups that you're investing in, are they mainly US? Because I mind myself from a cultural perspective, whether you call it the American dream, whether you call it the fact that, I think people are very brave and open to trying new things. I look, the further east we go, Europe is on that journey. And then you go back towards the US with the Middle East, they're really trying to be innovative and stand out. And then you get back to tradition again in the East. And again, innovation, but happening in a very insular way. Would it be fair, a lot of yours, not because you're just JetBlue and Ventures and you're based in the US, but maybe a lot of that tech is coming out of the US, or?
I would say, the majority of our startups are in the US, but we have a number, especially in Europe and the UK. That group of our startups has grown quite a bit. I mean, we've invested in a number of companies that are in Europe or the UK. Not as much, a handful, very small number that are more Asia-based. So it's just, it's what we see on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of, as we're doing our due diligence in the company and we think about, we spend a lot of, it's because we've invested in so many companies, we have to think about not just the technology and what the problem it's solving, but also, is this a good investment?
Yes.
We are a little bit more financially driven than the average CVC, and so, they need to have a market that is big enough for us to consider the growth potential for the company. And so some startups in smaller parts of the world are focused on like maybe one small region, but they need to be thinking beyond that in order for us to invest in them, because otherwise the growth potential isn't there. And so then the financial potential isn't there. And so even though we think the tech might be interesting, we won't necessarily make the investment. So I think it's a real balance. But we're open to technology from any part of the world. It's just, we just haven't found that, it's got to be in a pretty big market in order for it to be a big enough size for us to invest in, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm taking note. Make it exciting.
I know. Make it exciting. Have a really large scale, good, good growth potential, large TAM. Those are the things we're going to invest in. Now, because our job is half innovation, we will bring startups that we may not invest in to JetBlue or to others as potential partners, even if we don't invest in them, because we do know that we have a very strict criteria in order to make that investment. But that doesn't mean we don't love the technology or love the potential. It just means that it's not a venture investment deal.
Makes sense.
Level.
Yeah, and that's really important, right? There's a key differentiator there.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Okay. So before I move on to your career, the last question I had is, again, maybe centric towards the US market. Obviously, after the pandemic, we've seen a lot of change in the industry. How do you assess the landscape post-pandemic for the US? Because, look, when you think about Europe and the connectivity, North America is such a huge market. It's so important. Many airlines have always relied on that, and they've learned they've had to pivot or be able to make sure they're not just centrally focused on that such an important market. But again, I guess from the other side of the pond, if I say, what have you seen in terms of both culture and the way airlines are behaving when it comes to post-pandemic?
It's a really good question. I mean, it's been an interesting kind of ride over the last couple of years. From the deep in the heart of the pandemic, where airlines struggled so much, and travel tech companies struggled so much. In fact, if you're a travel tech startup that made it through, especially a customer-facing startup that made it through the pandemic, I mean, I feel like you're almost bulletproof. If you can make it through that, you can make it through anything.
Yes.
Because that was a really challenging time, especially if you came into the pandemic thinking you were going to raise funds in 2020. That was a really tough time for startups like that. Yeah. But that's not really I'm not really answering your question just yet. But I just think, it's been interesting to watch kind of what our focus has been over the last couple of years. Again, we spent so much time on climate tech. That was super huge during COVID because we weren't focused on a lot of other things, during that period. So airlines really doubled down on their net carbon zero goals and how are we going to become a more sustainable industry. And so we spent a lot of time investing there. Yeah. And as did our counterparts in the industry, the various other CVCs. Yeah. Now we've shifted, and while that's still interesting and still important, we've done a lot of those investments, and now we're thinking about, again, the AI and operational efficiency and those types of companies, and how can those help us transform into a period of time. More and more customers are flying again. Yes. Over the last 2 years, load factors have exploded.
Yes, absolutely.
It's how do you get through that, weather is very tricky, how do you get through from an operational perspective more efficiently and more reliably, and because that's important to obviously all of those customers that are on our planes. So I think a lot of that has been really important over the last year. So I think those are the kind of shifts that we're making, through time. we have 5 themes that we invest in, and they're still the same five themes.
Yeah.
It's not that we change our themes, it's that we change maybe the real focus for each year. So we still have 5 themes that are super straightforward: seamless customer journey, next gen operations, enterprise tech that solves a problem in travel, loyalty, distribution of revenue, and sustainability. So it covers all of those things, but each year has been a different type of year in what we focus on.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of all of my counterparts in the various.
And it makes sense because, as you say, we go for a place of being really worried whether these planes are ever going to go back. I'm sure that's a difficult time for you guys because you're still talking about the future, and everyone's like,
you're like,
we're not going to be here.
We just want to be able to fly a plane in another month or so.
Yeah. But then we lost a lot of experience in the workforces.
Oh, we did.
And now, as you said, we ran it a certain way.
Yeah.
But now we can't run it a certain way because those people aren't here that we relied on.
Yes.
So now we need to look at different ways of running that operation and be able to deal with the demand. So makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, deal with all of the various challenges that are coming our way. In the U.S., we obviously have issues with, the air traffic controller, workforce, and it's short-staffed, and congested airspace, and the weather throwing us a loop, and all of these things are just stacking up, and so it's really important to be efficient and reliable. Very important. So that's why it's important right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. So we're going to pivot on to the next phase, which is really about your career.
Okay.
So we've spent a lot of time just talking about what you're doing now, and actually I think that would be a great disservice to you, Amy, because actually in terms of your career over the last 20 odd years, it's incredible what you've been involved in. So talk to me how it all started, and I think we'll stop along the way on that journey with you, but I'd really like you to look back and reflect and tell us, again, we have the audience for us are about people joining the industry, people looking at our industry, people seeing parallels, but also people that are established, maybe looking to make the next step as well.
Yeah.
So I think your story will really resonate. So I think if you could just start to us, how did you get into aviation?
Yeah, I really was not expecting to go into aviation. That was a real surprise. I went to grad school, got an MBA, and was being recruited by a number of consulting firms. I had a bunch of consulting offers, thought I was going to be a consultant. That was my path. But I interviewed with Continental Airlines back in the day. I'm aging myself here, but they were recruiting at my school, and it just seemed really exciting. Everybody loves to travel. I've been a traveler all my life. I love going and seeing new places. And so all of a sudden this industry, hey, you can do this, you can work here, and you can do this for fun. I tell the story all the time. I was trying to make up my mind between all these offers. I've got consulting firms, they're sending me a fruit basket and come work for us. And Continental sent me a suitcase, a rollerboard suitcase, and you open it up and there's a sign inside that said, the job requires smarts and the perks require a passport. And I was like, how do you go wrong there?
Yeah, what a sales pitch, huh?
I literally was I have to go work for this company. I was totally unexpected.
I take it you didn't look towards a fruit basket.
I was like, hey, sorry guys, this is much cooler. It's just such a cool industry. And I think that really is what draws people in. It's just exciting, dynamic, cool, fun industry to work in. Now, that being said, it's a hard industry to work in. It's a very, very tricky industry. It's so volatile. Everything affects us. So you learn that over time.
Yes.
But it is a very, very enticing industry to work in. So I started with Continental Airlines. I started in revenue management, like everybody. It feels like moved on to corporate development, which was really cool because we looked at various things like what airlines they're going to combine and who's going to buy who, but also what partnerships that could be in place. And so that was a really neat part of the industry. But what really drew me was Virgin America. When Richard was decided he wanted to launch an airline in the U.S.
As he always has.
And he started building very slowly, the team that was going to build that airline. So the first call it 5 or 6 executives, Fred Reed and a couple others were on board. I was just, this is so cool. They're going to try to really transform what is an older legacy part of our travel experience into something really fresh and new. And that captured me. I just thought that was really, really exciting. And I sent them an email with my resume, the 3 or 4 of the executives. I'm like, this is who I am, this is where I am, this is what I think I can do to help you, and I really, really, really want to work for Virgin America. And so they hired me. Like 3 weeks later I started. It was remarkable, and I was one of the founding team before we were incorporated as an airline, worked for Virgin USA initially, and helped build this organization from scratch. And it was super exciting and coolest job I'll ever have.
You don't get to do it very often. I mean, we're here, we know Riyadh Air, for example, is here. It's a very unique opportunity happening today, but this doesn't happen very often. And forgive me for saying, you just glossed over this, right? How old were you when Virgin America, when you applied for this job?
I started in 2004, I was 32.
So I'm going to stop you, because when I think about people that listen to our podcast, right, you just casually say, I've gone and emailed the execs because I've seen an opportunity. This is a big deal for people, right? Not everyone has that. So I guess my question is where did that bravery come from, that you thought, okay, I'll just, I'm going to get you to look back? Because I think a lot of people, when they look at that, when we look at, I'm looking at it from outside, and I'm thinking, looking at those snippets there, actually it's opportunities like that. You saw opportunity and you went after it. Now, you didn't know the outcome. They could have just ignored your email, you never heard him again.
Yeah.
But actually, what the theme is really about being proactive.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I literally joke that, I don't know how that worked and how it would ever work again, but it worked. That I would send, I think it was 3 people. I sent one to Fred, I sent Bob Dana, who was the CFO, and the CTO at the time, whose name I can't remember, unfortunately. He was only with us a short period of time. And I just was like, I'm going to take a chance. I figured out one of their email addresses, figured it was probably the same for all, and just sent them a note. And it was remarkable that it worked. And Bob Dana called me a couple days later, and they were looking for somebody to manage the launch project of the entire airline, which was, again, probably the coolest job you'll ever get.
I was going to say, I mean, we should stop talking about JetBlue Ventures. There's a whole story here. Yeah. And I'm sure from the stories we hear about Richard and the way, the culture he tries to drive, I'm sure there was a lot of, like you said, hard work, but super fun.
It was very, very fun. Very fun. So I started with them. I worked for a really great guy, Dave Flieger. He was their general counsel, but in charge of the project. So he was my he was my partner in crime, and I did that job until about a year after we launched the airline. So pan forward, we launched in 2007.
Yes.
So for 3.5, almost 4 years, that was my role, and learned literally everything you could possibly learn about an airline, because we had to launch everything from scratch. Not just for the airline, but for a business, like just building a business. I have so much empathy and understanding for every startup that we talk to, because I've worked for a startup, and I know every little thing you have to figure out how to do yourself, Like, you don't have any infrastructure or any processes or any of those things. Like, you're building an HR department and building an aircraft and building a res system and like all of the things. So it was a really, really exciting time. Made some of the best friends I've ever had. Like, a small team, very nimble, like just embraced everything new that we could think of. Literally we'd sit in a conference room and say, what do we hate about travel and how are we going to change that thing? So amazing. It was a really remarkable time. And I was there, moved on, did a number of different things, ancillary products, revenue, e-commerce, strategy, systems. I implemented the Sabre system and ops and reservation system. I did a bunch of distribution and all of our revenue generating things like call center and, like I said, the website and all of those types of things. So I did all of those things over the course of 14 years. Wow. And my last job was I led the integration for when Alaska purchased Virgin America. Yeah. So I built the airline, I helped the airline break apart, and then off I went.
Brilliant. Well, I can see where your background in venture comes from then as well, right? We build it and then we'll
so really when the JetBlue Ventures job popped up after I worked my way out of a job, which was the intention, it seemed like the right fit. I mean, understand the startup world, understand emerging tech, and just how we can try to move the needle in the industry. I was like, this feels like the way to go.
But what you've shown there, just in that quick summary over your career is, and I think how you said about what's important in your role today is, it's exactly that. You've gone out and learned the cycle. You know what it feels like to be that startup. So there's empathy that way, but you also know what it's like being on the other side as the airline, and actually I don't want these guys coming at me all the time. So you've adopted that approach, and I think that's really important as a reflection for anyone listening, because like you said, the industry is so vast, and actually it's about trying to absorb what you can, go out and get those new experiences, because they will connect. They will connect, and actually you're only going to be better for it, and you're only going to be a better value to whoever you work with or your own business that you start.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I mean, and I also talk to a lot of folks, because I haven't had a traditional career path. Like, I didn't start in finance and work my way up to be a CFO of a company. Like, I was all over the airline, all over the industry, different types of roles, and so it's a little non-traditional, a little jack of all trades, master of none, but that has really worked for me because I understand very deeply how the entire organization works. I can, be in any meeting and kind of get all of the different pieces of what they're talking about, whether it's a maintenance meeting or a flight ops meeting or a finance meeting.
You're running a business now. So we normally get this model, don't we? We get the T model, which is either you go through a specialism and you become more general, or people are very generic and then go into a specialism. What do you look for in your up and coming talent? What is the way you're trying to develop that talent? Is it that T model, or is it the inverted T model?
I guess it's, probably similar to how I think it's about mindset, right? It's about literally every single time somebody wanted me to do a new job at Virgin America, especially because I had multiple jobs there. They'd come to me and they'd say, "We have this thing. We have a problem." Usually it was a problem. Could you take over this role and fix this problem? And my answer was always yes. And so I look for in my team. You don't have to know everything about the thing I'm going to ask you to do. You just have to be willing to give it a shot and willing to ask the questions and learn and not be afraid. Don't think that just because you haven't done this particular job that you can't do this particular job. I feel very confident that I can literally do any job. It's not because I know all of the things, it's because I know how to adjust, adapt, ask the right questions, learn, and build skills in an area that I may not have skills in. It's just that confidence of understanding that no matter what I throw at you, you've got it, and don't be afraid and embrace it. So I really look for, I don't necessarily care per se what your skill set is. I care what your mindset is.
I've been thinking I need to introduce a segment here where we just drop the mic. And I think, when we get, honestly, answers like that, I think are so powerful for people to just really understand. It can be put so eloquently like that, very simply, that actually, you just got to learn to say yes. You got to look and seek those opportunities. And you know what? We're going to get them wrong. And you know what? It's not the end of the world. But you got to be willing to pick yourself up, keep learning, and keep making yourself available to that learning and actually building on that. So, thank you so much. I think that was such an insightful segment. Time is actually running away from us, and I'm conscious, and I don't want to keep you too long either. So I'm going to try and wrap up the career part.
Okay.
I mean, you've mentioned some things as we've gone along, and I think we might get the answers again, but I don't mind that. But, what should females in the aviation industry be looking to when they're looking to develop into senior roles? Because you're a great role model, and I must say that myself. I talked to you earlier about I try and advocate for the women in aviation movement in the UAE, in the Middle East, and it's a really strong movement. And one of the things is always about finding those relatable role models, because everything feels out of reach, and we've talked about it just now about the mechanisms. But what would you say specifically to any of our female viewers who are, I'm sure, like me now, looking at you in awe and thinking, what should I be doing next? What can I be looking to do?
Some of the advice I tend to give younger women who are younger in their career, in any industry, but aviation is obviously a little bit more male dominated than a lot. And we all talk about it, being the only woman in the room and blah, 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 all those things. But what I tell them is, first of all, remember you belong there. Learn everything that you can, ask all the right questions, have a mentor, have a seat at the table, take your seat at the table. Do not sit in the back row because you're afraid that you don't belong there, or that you have some sort of, you have imposter syndrome and you feel like you shouldn't, speak up in a meeting. Speak up. There's nothing to be lost by doing those things. Like you will only gain in your career as you embrace, being part of a team and learning your role and having a mentor and just being part of the process. So I definitely tell women who are younger in their career, jump in, volunteer, say yes, learn all the things, sit at the table, ask the question in the meeting, make a comment. Your comment's probably really insightful. Make it. Don't think it and then later say, I should have said this in the meeting. Say it then. So you've got to just take your space. Take up your space and really, be part of the process. And I think it's harder for younger women women younger in their career to really feel confident enough to really participate. But that's what you have to do, right?
Perfect.
And find that mentor that tells you to participate, and that make sure that you're listening. That people are listening to you when you make your comments at the table, because that's important.
And rerun this. Keep reminding yourself of that. So brilliant. No, amazing. Look, moving back to you now.
Okay.
What has been the proudest moment thus far in your career? I mean, I'm sure there's many.
There's been a lot.
I'm not saying choose one and ignore the others, but one that stands out right now for you as we're having this conversation.
Well, I mean, I'm really obviously very proud of the process of building Virgin America. We think what we built was really wonderful, and ultimately it was sold. That's business. It is the way it works. I mean, maybe that's good. You've built something that somebody wants.
Exactly.
I'm very proud of being part of that process. I'm very proud of the team, and I'm very proud of the product that we built. Obviously, that was just a really fantastic experience, and I'm just ever so grateful for it. But I'm also really proud of where we are right now at JetBlue Ventures. It's not easy for a corporate venture capital firm. The average lifespan of a CVC is 4 years.
Wow.
We're at 8.5, which doesn't mean that in year 9 we're going to be around. So every day we just try to continue to do a good job and prove our worth, and we've made some amazing investments, and I have a great team that my previous boss literally said to me, he's like, your team will walk through walls for you. I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but that makes me proud.
Yes.
That we have a great team that just loves their jobs, and that we're doing a good job. And the future is definitely never guaranteed, and maybe next year we'll be doing something different. But right now, I feel that I'm very, very proud of what we've built.
Absolutely, and you should be. Absolutely.
And that we're a role model for other CVCs in the industry, because a lot of, especially new CVCs, come to me and ask for advice, and I love that, because that means we've built something that people want to be like.
To emulate, that makes sense. Okay. Great. And then, you talked about mentors. You talked about, as you've clearly worked with some phenomenal people in your career. What's been the best piece of advice you've been given?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to give you a tough piece of advice.
Okay.
Because this goes along with mentoring people younger in their career. And when I was younger in my career at Virgin America, very early on, somebody gave me the advice of, remember when you're talking about the things you're working on, that it's not I, it's we. And it really struck me, because, I had been going through some project plan for the launch, of course, and it was like, I think and I will and we, but there wasn't a lot of we there. And early on I learned that you're only as strong as your team. Only as strong as the team that works for you and that works with you. And that your place in that team is only as strong as the respect that they have for you. And that you're never going to do it alone, right? And so this goes along with my advice for folks younger in their career, both men and women. Remember that it isn't I, it's we, and you will never go wrong.
There you have it. I think it's a really, really important point there. And then one last thing just around career before we move to our quick fire round we've been trying to prep you for. What are the key skills you believe we need to see more of in the aviation industry?
I mean, again, there's probably a lot of skills. I mean, we need just smart people who are willing to work hard and think outside the box. I guess that's really it.
Yeah.
We need smart people who are willing to think outside the box.
Perfect. There we go.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Great. Listen, this has been an amazing conversation. We're going to have to get you back to really delve into. We've managed to get you for this long, which is great. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
We're going to move on to the final segment,
Okay.
which is a bit of a playful segment we call on the Flying High Club. It's the quick fire round. It's what we close with. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, just looking for some one-word answers, or short answers. Get to know you a bit better and share what you think about the industry.
Okay.
So we'll start with something very easy. Favorite aircraft type?
I'm an Airbus girl.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but you know what my new favorite is the A220.
Nice.
If you haven't flown an A220, check it out. It's a really cool aircraft. That's more than one word.
Okay, that's fine. Works well. Favorite airport?
SFO.
Nice.
I know that's really weak because it is my home airport.
We can have bias. It's okay. We'll have that. Window or aisle?
Definitely aisle.
Wow, that's a lot of passion with that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Sounds
100%.
like there's some stories behind that.
No, I like to be able to, I don't know, it makes me, I get a little claustrophobic at the window.
Fair enough. Chicken or beef?
I eat a lot of chicken, but I really prefer beef.
I like it. Throwing me off, man. That's good, I like it. One travel item you can't live without?
Ooh. Oh, that's a hard one.
Going through your hand baggage right now, are you just thinking, what's in there that...
Good hand lotion.
Listen, hand lotion's important. Especially in the dry environments that we're
That's the
operating
thing.
in.
I really feel that way, yeah.
Great. Well, listen, if any sponsors want to tell us, we might be able to get the name out of Amy as well in the future. Strangest in-flight experience you've ever had?
I was on a plane. It was a late night flight. And in the span of 15 minutes, 2 people had medical emergencies, and it was like, is something happening on the plane?
Wow. Yeah.
It was terrifying for a moment. I'm like, is there like an air issue? Or like, it was weird. It was very weird. Like somebody passed out and somebody had a seizure within 15 minutes of each other.
Wow. Okay, yeah. Sounds stressful.
Yeah, it was stressful.
Okay, we'll move on to something more lighthearted. A dream destination that you haven't visited yet?
Ooh, you know what? This is a weird one. I haven't been to Greece. I've been to so much of Europe and that area, but I've never been to Greece, and I really want to go.
Nice, yeah. It's a good one to pick. Earliest aviation memory?
I'm an Army brat, and we moved to Germany when I was when I was a kid, basically, when I was in high school. It's the first time I was on a plane, but it was very, very, flying overseas for the first time is a big deal.
Yeah. And it stays with you, so that makes
sense.
sense. Yeah. Okay. Things that inspire you about this industry?
I mean, travel is just so inspiring in itself. Like, just the ability to see other parts of the world and understand different cultures. To me, that is the biggest reason to travel, is to understand the way other people live. And it's different from the way you live, and that's great. You know, that's something you should embrace.
Perfect. Things you hate about the travel industry?
Oh, gosh. Sadly, sometimes I hate the process of travel and just delays and sitting around the airport. I sat in the airport for 12 hours on 2 Mondays ago, and it was the longest. It was a drag.
Yeah.
It was a drag. And I know what's going on.
Yeah.
I feel for the people who don't,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. One historical aviation event that you wish you could have witnessed?
I don't know that it's an event, but I wish that I could have experienced air travel in the 50s and 60s. You know, it was just a different world.
Yeah, it seems really...
It seems very glamorous.
Not what we have to do these days.
Not necessarily what we have today.
Absolutely. Okay, great. The future of aviation.
Yes.
Electric planes or supersonic travel?
I think it's more electric, but I think it's electric hybrid.
Okay. I like it. One innovation you think that will change air travel in the next 10 decades? In the next decade, sorry.
Oh, gosh. Travel or air travel? Travel in general. I'm going to give you travel in general.
Yes.
I think eVTOLs are real, are going to transform the way we move around the world.
So personal mobility, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But for airlines, how our customers get to the airport is going to transform.
Okay. That's a nice way to end. So thank you. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And it's been such a free-flowing conversation. And I genuinely mean, I think there are so many nuggets that you have dropped for us here that our viewers are going to find so valuable. So I guess another PR, as always, like, comment, subscribe, because that's how we get amazing guests like Amy along. And we tell them that actually there are a lot of people listening. So actually we want to hear from Amy and the like. So thank you very much. And look, we wish you all the best with JetBlue Ventures. I'm definitely looking out for those gamification solutions that you're talking about.
Yes, definitely.
And love to see the operation improve in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Best of luck for everything. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.